If your goal is to build a physique that women are genuinely attracted to, you need to stop training like a bodybuilder. Your goal isn't to put on muscle everywhere. It is to put on muscle in the right places, which is the lean aesthetic V-taper physique, so that women are genuinely attracted to you. Women don't like bodybuilders, they find them obsessed. And women don't like, model physiques where they are pretty much skinny and have no masculinity to them. In this video, I'm going to break down the muscles that you need to prioritize, how you are going to train them with the specific exercises, but also a set of rules that will allow you to genuinely progress month on month and actually get the physique that women desire. Now, before this video starts, I want to say that the physique, yes, it's very important, but there are other aspects to, becoming an attractive man and getting the women that you would actually like. So what I've done for you guys is put together a training of my methodology, and I have broken it down in a training video completely for free. So what I want you guys to do is click the link in the description, get access to the free training, and watch it after you've watched this video. The first muscle that you need to prioritize is going to be the shoulders. If I had to pick any muscle to focus on entirely, it would be this. And the reason for it is it's what creates the V-taper physique, where your waist is sort of narrow and your shoulders are 1.5, maybe even 2 times the width of your waist. That is the goal. So the first exercise you want to be doing for shoulders is a heavy compound shoulder press. This can be with dumbbells, this can be with, a barbell, this can even be with a machine. It can be seated, it can be done stood up. It doesn't really matter, to be quite honest. What matters is that you are actually hitting it frequently and that you are taking it in the full range of motion. This is going to allow you to build a strong base. There are supporting muscles such as the upper chest and the triceps, but as long as you are sort of doing it in the form you can see in the video, you are going to get the best result for your shoulders. Now, the second thing that you need to focus on with shoulders is going to be a lateral raise. It doesn't really matter what you do, whether it's cables, whether it's a machine, if you're lucky enough to have a machine, or if you use dumbbells. I would say there are going to be better results that come from using a cable setup and even a machine setup compared to the dumbbells, simply because of the resistance profile that the machine and the cables create. But as long as you have these two exercises, your shoulders will genuinely blow up. You're going to get those cap delts, and then you're going to be able to fill out a t-shirt and have that V-taper frame that women are genuinely attracted to. By focusing on these two exercises, you are going to prioritize the front delt through the shoulder press, but also a bit of the side delt. And through doing the lateral raises, you are going to get the capped side delts, which is what sort of creates that beginning look of the V-taper. Now, the second muscle group that you are going to want to focus on is the back. And the reason I put this at number 2 is because it genuinely complements the V-taper physique. That is the goal here. Your shoulders are the top part of the V, and the middle part of the V is going to be your lats. And that's why this sort of setup is done to prioritize the lats. There are other parts of the back, and they will get targeted with these exercises, but it's going to lead from your shoulders to your back into your waist, creating that nice Dorito look. So the 2 exercises that I'd like to prioritize, number 1 is going to be the lat pull down. Now, you can do a pull-up, you can do assisted pull-ups, you can do a cable, you can do a machine, you can do pretty much any variation of lat pull down, as long as you are following the following rules, right? You want to keep your sort of wrist stacked above your elbow. I see so many guys in the gym continuously sort of do this motion here, or where they're just sort of trying to pull the weight and they're leaning back. You don't want to do that. You want to move with control. You want to make sure that you're going through the full range of motion, that your elbows are being driven towards your hips, and that your wrist is staying stacked above your elbow. Now, you can use straps to help you support you so you can actually target the back more, or you can sort of take an overhand grip where your thumbs, or what's called a thumbless grip. This is going to help you feel it more in the back. Again, you can do any variation of a lat pull down. My personal preference is going to be in this order: a lat pull down machine that's going to give you the most support. It's going to allow you to properly, progressively overload, and pretty much anyone can use it. The next thing is going to be a pull up, or a wide grip pull up, or even assisted pull up for the guys that can't yet get their first pull up. This is great too. It does target other areas of the back, a bit of upper back, but the main focus is on the lats with it. And once you are able to do pull-ups, I would strongly suggest that you hop onto, weighted pull-ups, because this is genuinely one of the craziest back builders. If I had to pick in complete order for the average person. If they could do a weighted pull-up, that is what I would prescribe. But for the overwhelming majority of guys, it's going to be the lat pull down. The second exercise that I'm going to prescribe for the back and the lats is going to be the sort of chest supported row. Now, there are many variations in which you can do a chest supported row. The best is probably going to be a T-bar row. If not that, some form of dumbbell row or barbell row. Now, the reason I say chest supported is it's going to give you the most amount of control. It's going to allow you to create that mind muscle connection, and you're not going to be relying so much on your lower back in order to support the movement. Therefore, you're going to create more focus and more tension on the lats, on the sort of mid and upper back as well. Now, what you want to make sure that you're actually achieving when you're doing the second variation of row that I've given you is to make sure that your elbows are tucked, right? The second you start doing flared elbows, you are going to be targeting more of the upper back. Now, if that's your intention, fine, but we're talking about building the lean, aesthetic, V-taper physique. That's going to be achieved by keeping your elbows tucked and pulling them into your waist. That's going to primarily target the mid and lower lat, which is going to give you that, again, that V-taper look. As long as you're progressively overloading it on each week, you're going to be sweet. Now, for the chest is arguably one of the most simple, because you really only need to focus on the upper chest. The reason you want to focus on the upper chest is this is what's going to allow you to fill out t-shirts, but it's also going to already by default hit the sort of lower chest and mid chest as well. What you want to do is do an incline press. This can be done again on a Smith machine. This could be done on with dumbbells, but the rules are simple. The way I like to picture it is the second variation of row I showed you was to keep your elbows tucked like this. Now imagine that movement in reverse, where your shoulders are basically pushing up like this. And as you do that, you're going to feel the tension in the upper chest. The best way to do this is with a Smith machine. It's going to give you a fixed path. It's going to allow you to progressively overload it. It's going to allow you to have full range of motion and actually hit the upper chest properly. The second movement I would give anyone is going to be a fly variation. This can be a sort of pec deck. This can be with cables. It doesn't really matter. But I wouldn't really go with dumbbells. It can be a little bit unstable for most people. So a fly variation. This is what's going to hit the rest of the chest while still focusing on the upper chest, especially if you are doing sort of a low to high or sort of just a neutral sort of mid sort of fly as well. These two exercises are genuinely enough to hit all parts of the chest and build some big breasts that, you know, women can grab onto and feel ashamed that they don't have as big a breasts as you. The fourth muscle group is going to be the abs. Now, I have been super guilty of not training abs and skipping them entirely, but there is a great reason why you need to train them. Number one, it is part of the V-taper physique. Women look at abs and genuinely go crazy. They love to kiss them. They love to stroke them. It's great. You want to have a cheese grater right on your abs. That's the goal. But the reason why they're so important and on top of, you know, being lean is because you can actually be sort of 12, 13, 14% body fat and have full visible abs if they are trained and if they are well developed. I have been guilty of my first sort of 6 years of training, completely skipping abs, not training them, telling myself, you know, they're not important. I will just get lean. And even when I was at the 10 to 12% range, they weren't as popping and visible as I wanted them to be. So the two exercises that I have started doing and implementing into my training at least twice a week is going to be, first is the sort of seated cable crunch. This can be achieved on a cable stack pretty much exclusively, but there are some machines, like some ab machines, that are decent for doing it, but they're not incredible. I would pretty much only stick to a cable crunch. You want to focus on spinal extension and spinal flexion. You don't want any of the hips to get involved. It should primarily be sort of bending your spine and, you know, extending your spine. That is it. That's all you need to do. For most people, they're going to be a lot stronger on this exercise naturally because we use our abs on a day-to-day basis, which is why it's so important that you actually do target them exclusively. Now, along with that, you want to make sure that you're doing some form of hanging leg raise. Again, what you don't want to do is sort of make the hip flexors the primary focus. You want to think about tucking your hips into your sort of chest or lower chest area. This is going to allow you to hit the sort of or bias the lower part of the abs, which most people struggle with when they get down to the lower body fat percentage. It tends to be the lower abs that aren't sort of visible. But if you have those two exercises, you are going to be focusing on the entire abs and then putting a bias on the lower abs with the hanging leg raises. Those two exercises are more than enough to build yourself a set of great abs. Now, number 5, and this is going to piss a lot of you guys off, but it is going to be your legs. I have so many guys out there and so many clients who spend years not training legs. Legs are absolutely and entirely mandatory, right? The reason I say that is you don't want to build a lean aesthetic physique that is, sat on top of twigs. That is genuinely unattractive. You do not want a woman who's got bigger, more strong and dominant legs than you. You need to have the best legs in the relationships. So the goal should be to target them appropriately. I'm not saying you have to get huge legs like a bodybuilder or a cyclist, but they should be substantial enough to make your physique look whole. So the two exercises that I would prioritize are a squat and a hip hinge. Now the squat is going to be very simple. This can be done with a pendulum squat, a hack squat, a sort of Smith machine squat, a barbell squat, a goblet squat. There are genuinely hundreds of options. As long as your arse is going down and your knees are bending and they're going over your toes, that's it. That's pretty much it. You can, for many people who don't have the biomechanics that makes squatting comfortable, you can slide a sort of plate underneath your heel. This is going to make it so much more comfortable for the guys with longer femurs, and you'll be able to progressively overload it without having any injuries. Now, alongside that, you want to make sure that you're doing a hip hinge. A hip hinge is going to develop the posterior side of your legs, which is going to be your hamstrings and your glutes. Women love big asses. They like a guy who's got, a nice ass. So this is also going to target that as well. The hip hinge is going to develop your hamstrings. What you want to make sure you're doing is using a barbell or a dumbbell. Or if you're extremely lucky, there are some machines out there that are pretty decent, but most people don't have access to them. They're not very common in many gyms. So the barbell or dumbbell hip hinge, i.e. the stiff leg deadlift or Romanian deadlift, is going to be the best exercise for your hamstrings to grow. You hit this, you progressively overload it, you can become very, very strong at it and very, very good at it. It also is very good for your flexibility and your overall posterior strength. So those two exercises for legs. If you want to throw on some sort of bonuses, I would do extensions and curls. They're great, but they aren't as good as your squats and your RDLs, aka hip hinges. The 6th muscle group, and it is everyone's favorite, right? It's going to be the arms. Now, the reason that I've left arms till last is because, to be quite honest, your arms will be developed when you hit other muscle groups, i.e. your chest, your shoulders is going to develop your triceps because they are a secondary and supporting muscle. And when you are training your back, you are going to develop your biceps. For every set that you do on a back exercise, your supporting muscle, your bicep will get equivalent of half a set of work. So my rules and my methodology behind training arms is super simple. And I would like to say that I know what the fuck I'm talking about, simply because I would actually argue that my arms are a pretty big and a pretty good strong point of my physique. And they are important. They do fill out t-shirts, but it's super simple. All you need to do is make sure that you are doing a bicep curl and a tricep extension. Any variation. Do I have my own preference? Absolutely. I like hammer curls and I like sort of spider curls or incline bicep curls. That's it. Those are the two variations I do for biceps, but you can do anything. You can do easy bar curls. You can do, dumbbells, barbells. You can do machine, anything, as long as your elbow is bending and you are, doing a bicep curl. That's pretty much it. And the same applies to triceps. You can do dumbbells, you can do cables, you can do pretty much anything. It doesn't really matter as long as you're extending at the elbow and hitting the tricep. Now, are there my own preferences? Yes, I like to do a single arm extension and an overhead extension, both on cables. That's it. That is the foundation. Again, they're going to be hit when you are doing your primary movements with your chest and your back and your shoulders, but it's always good to have a couple of sets in there to actually make sure they are being targeted independently of your back and your shoulders and your chest. I will say none of these exercises matter if you aren't training them properly. So I do have a few things I will cover that will give you the right information to actually hit these muscles properly. Rule number one, 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle group. Simple. So in a single week, you should be getting anywhere between 10 to 20 sets. 10 is going to be the lower end. 20 is going to be the complete upper end. Beyond that point, you are going to be getting diminishing returns. Rule number two is going to be making sure that you are in the rep range between 6 and 12. As long as you are hitting failure, it doesn't really matter, but this range is going to develop your strength, your muscle but growing, and also a level of endurance so you can actually progress it over time and get better. If you start going under 6, you're going to start sacrificing hypertrophy. And if you go above 12, you're probably doing too many reps. It's going to be a bit boring and you're going to be focusing more on endurance. 6 to 12 reps, this is the perfect range for sort of all three, but the main goal is going to be hypertrophy, which is just muscle growth. Rule number 3, and it kind of relates to rule number 2, but it is incredibly simple. I'm going to leave it at this. Train close or at failure. Your muscles need to adapt, and in order to do that, you need to sort of force them to, and that is only achieved through training within close proximity to failure. That should be the standard. Rule number 4 is going to be progress over time, right? You don't have to progress your lifts every single week, although if that is occurring, well done, good job. But your goal should be to progress over time. Within a period of months, you should be getting stronger, you should be getting better, and it should be, a sort of reward for you by getting more muscle. Simple as that, just progress over time. That is the key. Rule number 5, and the fundamental rule, which I have left till last, not because it's not important, but arguably because it is the most important, and that is just going to be get very lean. Because it doesn't matter if you have trained all these muscle groups and you've got a fantastic physique. If you are not lean, it will not be visible. It is not part of the attractive aesthetic physique. Women won't desire you if you've got a ton of muscle, but you are sitting at 20, 30, 40% body fat. Lean is law, that should be your number one priority. So yeah, guys, that is everything you need to know about the muscles you need to prioritize, how to train them, what exercises, and the set of rules that are gonna get you sort of doing it properly. Now, if you want to build the best physique, you want to also build the other parts that are, also important when it comes to becoming an attractive man, I strongly suggest you click the link in the description. You get access to my free training where I break down my 2-second method to get more dates, to, have a better dating life, get a girlfriend, and have just abundance of women. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.